Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This interview question determines if a prospective employee's future is a good fit for the company. But what about the incarcerated person's future after prison? Is that a good fit not for the company, but for the community to which they are returning? According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, from 2005 to 2014, 5 out of 6 people released from a state prison were rearrested within 9 years. That is extreme recidivism. And part of it's because myself and 2.3 million other incarcerated people are so focused on surviving the routine trauma of prison, we forget 95% of us should be focused on preparing for reentry. My name is Michael Shane Hale, and I'm talking about the power of relationships to redefine the reentry experience. I've been in prison for 25 years, a majority of my life. And with 25 more years to serve, you might be surprised to know that I love my job of helping people get ready to go home. These clients, men and sometimes trans women, have spent years behind bars and are being released within weeks. And they always ask, Shane, why do you work for people who are always leaving and you aren't? My reason is selfish. I owe their families and communities to be a part of the solution. 25 years ago, I took a man's life. And then like a coward, I tried to cover it up. Being fully accountable means I wake up each day knowing I can't change the past. But that sorrow doesn't stop me from doing the right thing, doing atonement. Sharing this models an opportunity for myself and the clients to connect our vulnerabilities around reentry. And we discover an intersectionality of fears. Mine, dying in prison. Theirs, returning to prison. With over 4 years of experience as a facilitator, most clients do not have a reentry plan. Only a handful do. And in the beginning, this pissed me off. Most of these people are squandering their second chance. But listening to clients, I gained an insight into the power of relationships to redefine the reentry experience. So relationships put together to survive prison define those people as part of the problem, who don't focus on reentry readiness and are seen as future recidivists. But relationships constructed to thrive in prison redefine those people as part of the solution, focused on reentry readiness, and transform themselves into future community members. I was lucky. My first prison relationship forced me to think about, would I survive or would I thrive in prison? As a first-time violent felony offender in a New York State prison, I finally make it out to the yard, which is clearly a misnomer. There's no grass, no trees, just a big, mean-looking parking lot. I see a metal picnic table, and I sit down and take a breath of fresh air. When someone runs up and tells me, "You can't sit there, you got to sit at the white table," I look around. I don't see a table that's white. Prison subculture segregates itself according to race, religion, fill in the blank. But I have a big problem if I don't get up. But I have a bigger problem if I do. Hundreds of people around the yard are watching to see if I'm weak, making me a target. So then my biggest problem becomes deciding, which problem do I want? And I've forgotten that I'm still holding my breath. Fortunately, an old-timer intervenes. He calls me a dumbass and the other guy a hothead. And he tells me, "Get your dumbass into school because you're never going to make it in a prison yard." That relationship lasted all of 2 minutes. But it forced me to take measure of my life. I committed a crime. I receive a felony, which transforms me into state property, authorizing physical and psychological punishment, and promises a destiny of post-release scrutiny. Doing time in a men's prison is scary. It's filled with violence, toxic masculinity, short fuses. Every step is a potential landmine. You never know if it'll be your last. In this environment, most people put together relationships like they're playing a chess game, objectifying people as pawns or rooks, checkmating our mutual humanity. So, in this environment, 2.3 million of us survive it by ignoring reentry until it becomes just one more crisis to get through. And that hurts because we want more for ourselves. So moving forward, one of the things that really works for us inside of prison when we think about like what's happening with ourselves is thinking about our environment and our situation, because one of the things that happens is that sometimes we believe that after we spend tens of billions of dollars into mass incarceration, we have two expectations. One, extreme recidivism. And two, the unfortunate outcome of erasing humanity, surrounding it with trauma, and calling that justice. But shouldn't justice also include grace and accountability? I think we're confusing accountability with punishment. And punishment doesn't change behavior. The National Geographic Channel documents life inside prisons. You can witness acts of violence and drug abuse and judge for yourself. Remorse, redemption, relationships change people and how they re-enter their communities. So as a person closest to the solution, instead of getting pissed off, I poured myself into believing in people, getting them to see something that prison had erased, their future. When reentry counselors and I give clients their first resume, they look at it stunned. For the first time, they can see their future. And they feel hope that something can be salvaged from just surviving prison. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Prison erases your future. But public-private partnerships have an impact by re-visioning people as future community members. Let me tell you about Sean Pica. Sean came to prison shortly after he could legally drive a car, but in prison, he constructed relationships while bettering himself. He went from a GED to a master's degree. Only at Sing Sing. Only at Sing Sing. After he was released, he was hired by the people who knew him while incarcerated to work at Hudson Link. His work ensures others have the educational opportunities he had. I see Sean in the people who show up, the clients who show up with a reentry plan. When I ask them the $64,000 question, roughly the price to incarcerate someone for a year, where do you see yourself in 5 years? The responses vary, but they are always informed by the public-private partnerships of higher education initiatives and volunteer groups. Teachers and professors transform people from disempowered state property into people who own their agency, practicing accountability for their poor decisions with opportunities to make good ones. This develops resilience, the powerful ability to transform a focus from just surviving prison into one that's focused on reentry readiness. The future doesn't happen later. The future happens now. Those clients leave like Executive Director Sean Pica as valued community members. People in prison, no longer discounted or disconnected, are asking how to heal the communities they once harmed. I was very, very lucky and very, very grateful to get transferred to Sing Sing, where there is an abundance of public-private partnerships. Millions of others aren't so lucky, and they're stuck surviving mass incarceration, which deters relationships. So moving forward, I'll continue to be a part of the solution, helping support men and sometimes trans women develop good reentry plans. But we can't do it alone. We need your help to make sure that people stay home. You can do this with the minimum investment in 5 key areas. 1, food. Hungry people make poor choices. 2, clothes. Inappropriately dressed people aren't prepared for cold weather or opportunities like job interviews. 3, housing. No shelter, no stability. 4, employment. Unemployed people become desperate people. And finally, 5, therapeutic programming. People who don't manage their issues manage them. Your help helps people with no reentry plan begin to answer the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? My name is Michael Shane Hale. Thanks for listening.